Three, two, one, here we go. Rainman's Take podcast. Observations on the world we live in. My take on current events and other topics of interest. Also interviews with some really cool people. So let's get the conversation going. Hey everybody, it's the Rain Man. Just want to give a quick shout out to everybody watching. Thank you very much. I know you're going to find this next interview thought-provoking. I enjoy spending time with people like my next guest and getting into more detail about the subject matter, and I know you appreciate that as well. So go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. That way we can continue bringing you great content in the future. So thanks again for being part of Rain Man's Take, and enjoy the interview. Hey everybody, it's the Rain Man. I want to welcome my guest, Damilare Adeyeri. Dammy, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well. We are actually old friends, and I wanted to have Dammy on today because he is a results coach and very successful one at that. And just kind of wanted to talk today just about the science and the art of achievement, not only in one's personal life, but also in their business life, and what those results look like and how to go about getting those results. And Dammy has been very helpful with me. And so I thought I'd get him on and kind of talk about that. And I think all of you out there might get a lot out of this. So Dammy, thanks for joining me today.
Not a problem. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Why don't we go ahead and start from the beginning? Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into results coaching, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So Damilare is my name. You already said that. And actually, what most people may not know, I grew up from Nigeria. So I grew up in Nigeria. That's where I went up. However, before coming to the U.S., I've been in the U.S. for about 12 years. Between Nigeria and the U.S., I've lived in 8 countries, which I love to talk about. And actually, I've traveled to 26 countries. So when you're talking about, having an international experience, I definitely do have it. But in terms of coaching, however, for me, I grew up being that go-to person, right? So for my friends and family members, when they needed a strategy, needed to, somewhere to bounce off ideas or talk about things, or even a confidant, typically was me. So I knew either way I would work with people, so as I grew up and then looked at the different things I could do, I always knew that, human behavioral tendencies was fascinating to me. And I wanted to work with people. So long story short, I eventually decided I wanted to become a coach, and I looked into all the trainings available. So I did that. And the fulfillment here, it's really about helping people get results. And when you think about helping people get results, people often wonder, it's like, what else have you done? And I say one of the things that hold people back is not wanting to take risks, right? Not wanting to get out of their comfort zone, to be able to grow. And having lived that myself through my travels, through, quitting my job in Nigeria to move to the US, through all the trainings I've done, which is really human psychology, coach training, what else is there?
When you were that kind of go-to person when you were younger, what is it that you think was what was attraction? What did people make? What did people want? What do you think made you the person that people wanted to come to and kind of ask for those type of the advice or the just kind of give your take on what they're doing? What was it about you, do you think, that made them want to come to you?
Right. So it really was about asking the right questions, to give clarity of thought. Because, frankly, many times part of my work is not necessarily advice. In fact, I don't give advice. I ask you the right questions to help you go deeper to figure out where you're getting stuck. And that was the distinct thing for me. It's like, okay, having a broad view of what's going on, and then able to silence the noise and pierce through and ask what you really want. What's your outcome? Yeah, there are a million billion things you could be doing. Yeah, there are a million billion things that are coming as a distraction. Yeah, there are a million billion challenges, but focusing on your outcome, what do you want? And so being able to ask those questions to get clarity of thought was definitely one thing that stood me out. And then encouraging them to take action, right? So it's not just enough to, one, get that clarity of thought on what you want. You have to take action too, because if you're not taking action, then you're not getting results, right? And so clarity, accountability for action.
Yeah. And is that something, do you think that when you were younger, obviously there was no formal training in those things. Did that just come kind of naturally to you? You kind of had that vibe about you that, you kind of knew what to do and what to say to get certain things out of people?
Definitely. I mean, I would say that I have a gift for it. And I did not rely on just the gift. I got training. So, as a teenager, a lot of my personal money, went into buying self-help psychology books, right? And motivational and personal development and leadership, all the big names, in the industry, I paid to get that knowledge and experience, and actually, to go back a little bit, my dad had this book, The Power of Positive Thinking, by Norman Vincent Peale, at home. So that's probably one of the first things that piqued my interest. It's like, what is this book? What is it? Why does it have it? And that kind of just layered up with all the big names in the books, in the industry that I started collecting, and so you find that as you grow, for most of us, your interest kind of predicts what you gravitate towards. And for me, my interest in positive psychology, self-help, and helping people, I'm connected to all the things I've done. And if you look a little bit in my history, I've worked on a college campus before, helping, international students. I've worked as a dance fitness instructor, which I actually still enjoy, doing, helping people reach their fitness goals. I've worked as a personal trainer, helping them reach personal, fitness goals. All of it, whether it's education goal, whether it's relationship, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, it all comes back to the psychology of it, and the emotional association. And all of that came, one, from my gift just growing up, being that go-to guy, and also all the training that I've taken to become the best coach that I could be.
And did you do this? Did you do the professional training in Nigeria as well, or that didn't start until you got to the States?
That didn't start until I got to the States. So, thinking a little bit back about my training, one of the places I live, I said internationally, was London in the UK. So while I was in London, I checked out what was called the Coaches Academy in London. They had like it's coaching right for you, personal certificate kind of a program. So I went there. It was a one-day intensive, did all of that. Then I knew I definitely wanted to become a coach. I did not continue with their program because then they had a full diploma that they could. I did not. But all the concepts, all the models, everything, I got an introduction to. And then when I came to the US, I signed up with what is called RMT, which is Robbins Modernist Training. So it's a combination of Tony Robbins and Chloe Modernist in this training that they put together. So I did that, and that was 100+ hours of coach training. So I did that, got the certification for that, became what is called a strategic intervention coach. So was what I did as part of my training. However, when it comes to what I do, it's really about getting people results, right? Because if you want something and you're not clear about what you want, then we have to start from there, right? Get clarity and then help you get that. Whether it's in your relationship, your business, you know, your personal life, family, you know, whatever area. And the most fun thing I say all the time is that you are the common factor in every area of your life. So work on you, and then you see the results in every other area.
Yeah. And I tell you, you know, not only with my work with you, but just other counseling sessions I've done in the past, the one thing that I've found is maybe innately I kind of knew what needed to be done, or subconsciously, not innately, but maybe subconsciously. But once it's actually explained to you, and you know, this is what you're doing, that once it actually becomes conscious, you're like, wow, that's amazing. You know, there's that jump, and it takes somebody outside of yourself to explain that.
Right. You know, and you're spot on that, because sometimes in coaching sessions with clients, you know, I hear like, why did I think about that? You know, like, now that I think of it, it makes sense, but why didn't I think about that? And I was like, exactly, because you needed that external push, right? You needed that catalyst. You needed something to change your perspective, to look where you're not looking. And the moment you see it, you see it. Yeah. And that's what a coach does.
Yeah. And that's essentially across any business, any kind of personal goals that people have. I mean, that thing cuts across all of it, right? So you don't necessarily have to be an expert in whatever it is that your client is an expert in. It's that thing just cuts across all of it.
Correct. You know, and it's one of the questions that people ask when they come to coaching. It's like, well, you know, are you an expert in engineering, or do you have, you know, a background in law, or in insurance, or in computer technology, or in medicine, or things like that? You know, because when they think of coaching, they think of like, okay, like a professional coach or a mentor who is going to teach you how to do it. You know, and I say, well, coaching is different from mentorship, right? If you're looking for a business mentor that will hold your hands and teach you the thing, that's not the kind of coaching that we do, right? Because that you can get in a professional field. What we do is to train your mind, your emotions, and brain to think differently than you're used to. Because that's the way you go higher. That's the way you perform better than you're already used to. Because if you could, you would have done it, right? But you are not where you are now, or you're not where you could be. So wherever you are right now is not the most that you could be, until you get an opportunity for a coach to help you raise the bar.
Yeah, and those skills again are across all aspects of life. And it's funny, while you were just talking there, I'm giggling to myself, because that's how I thought about it before I actually engaged in the whole coaching and the results coaching. It was that I always said to myself, and this is such a limiting way of looking at it, and that is, you know, I want to have whoever I'm talking to have some kind of street cred in whatever it is that I'm trying to do. But like you said, that's the person you go talk to who's going to be your mentor, not somebody that's going to help you personally how to, once you're within that, whatever it is that you're doing, how do you become the best you can be at that particular thing?
Right. And frankly, so here's the thing. It's 80% psychology and 20% strategy, right? What many people are good at is the strategy, the technical know-how. But then a lot of people know what to do, but don't do what they know.
Yeah.
Why? You know, or even if you're looking for the step-by-step process, you could get on the internet and search that. Information is everywhere. So why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
Because there are limiting beliefs or patterns that hold people back from doing the things they know they should do. And so how can they get unstuck? A coach.
Yeah. So perfect segue into the next question. That is, so what is there a sort of typical client that you have, or is it just across the board where you have to, there's a lot more sort of, babysitting is not the right word, but a lot more kind of past experiences trying to fix those or sift through those, or is it more the person that's right there at the edge and is like, I need to take that next step? What would be your typical, if there is even a typical client?
Right. So broadly speaking, there are two kinds of clients, and I'm going to generalize right now. So broadly speaking, there are the clients who have a goal. The goal is a must, and they're doing everything they can to get there, and that includes getting a coach on board in their corner to help them get there. That's one. The other general part is the people who the situations in their life has pushed them to the point where they know now that change is a must. Right? And something you may hear coaches say often is unless and until the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the effort required to make a change, people often don't change. Why should they? It's like, it's not that bad. Other people have it better. I can manage, or you hear the metaphor of the frog in the boiling water, right? It doesn't feel as hot. Well, it doesn't feel as hot. It's okay. So it's really either they're like, I know what I want. I'm getting all the help I need. And hey, coach, you're going to help me get there. Let's do this. Or they're like, well, I'm at the point where I'm fed up and now I need some help. Help me move forward. So generally speaking, we see both, right? And it could be in any area of their life, whether again, relationships, business, finance, or personal development, or just, having clarity about, life and meaning, because you talked about achievement, there's also fulfillment, right? You make all the millions in your business or billions in your business. Did you do that at the expense of family relationships, your health? Yeah. And now you're like, okay, well, I neglected that part. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah. My wife always says, she's got her stool's got three legs. It's herself, her health, her business, and then her family. And generally speaking, one of those or more gets thrown by the wayside for the main important one. But obviously, if you can get all three, then you're going to be a little bit more balanced in your life. Those typical the sort of the general group of clients that you have, obviously you're doing what you do for those people is different, or is it kind of the same?
So what I do for the ones who are ready to go is more like, okay, how do you know that what you want is really what you want? Right? Again, we go back to the drawing board, because it's what do you want, why do you want it, and how can you get it? Right? Because yes, you know what you want, let's be clear on that. And then is the why strong enough to drive you towards getting it? Because if it's not, when the challenges along the way come up, you're going to question it over and over again, and you're probably going to drop it along the way. Right? So when you know what you want, we make sure that's what you really want, why you want it. And it's always even better if that why is bigger than yourself, because then that's more push and then go. So people who already know what they want, it's probably a quicker process, because the clarification process of what they want may move faster. For people who are stuck and who are at a point where, oh my gosh, like, everything is happening, I just need a way forward, then we spend more time at that digging part, of what led you to this point, and how can we get you out of it? And then again, what do you want? why do you want it, and how can we get there.
Yeah. And how long do you typically, I mean, do you have relationships with clients that last years? I mean, what's sort of talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. So, yes, I do have relationship with clients that last years. And I do have a relationship with clients that I don't know, sometimes it's 6 months, 1 year, sometimes it's years, and it's at any stage, a coach is always helpful. If you look at life as going from one level to the other, right? The more we work together, the next level you are getting into. So you decide that. And some people decide to stay in coaching as a way of continuous development, right? Just making sure that, okay, well, I hit this goal, now what's next? Okay, I hit this goal. And it's not necessarily about bigger goals, but sometimes about, so here's a metaphor. Sometimes it's not about digging deeper. It may be about wider, covering more ground, right? It's like, okay, well, the past year, we've been working on my relationship, and if I could score my relationship, well, I think I'm right about an 8, over 10. I feel good. Let's hit my financial goals. Okay, well, I feel like I'm about a 8 or 9 there. Let's hit, my business goals. Okay, well, let's hit my career and mission in life. It's like, okay, well, do I feel like I'm making a difference? Do I feel like my existence here is contributing to the whole collective? We can hit that too. And then I was like, well, actually, am I feeling joy overall? Joy, love, all the emotions. And do I have control over how I feel and when I feel? Again, we hit that. So there's really no time limit because there's always the next level. Clients get to decide. Some come for a little bit, leave and come back. Some come, stay for as long as they can. And some come, hit a goal and feel like, okay, well, I'm good for now and I'll come back when I need more.
Yeah. And just our time together, I thought it was, there was some outstanding things that we discussed, and that I'm still using them, and it's still super helpful. And it's interesting because I talked to another counselor, not results coaching counselor, but just another counselor, and it got to the point where she basically said, "You know what? I think you're good." And it was like, okay, I guess I'm good. And and so I basically stopped talking to that individual. But she's like, if you ever feel like you need a quick reset or whatever, just give me a call. So yeah, it's very I felt like I was almost falling into a not a dependency on it, but it was always a good feeling, and it was always felt like it was moving me forward. And so it was very enjoyable to have those conversations. And then of course she kicks me out of the nest and I got to fly away.
Well, so I mean, that kind of makes me think about a common question people ask. It's like, what's the difference between coaching and counseling or therapy or things like that? Counseling or therapy comes more from a diagnostic perspective, right? It's like, let's dig into what's going on, or even more from a clinical perspective, and looking at healing in some way. And there's a wide range of what people are wanting healing from anxiety to managing emotions to PTSD to, it could be anything, or even just everyday depression, right? Coaching is very results oriented, very forward driven, right? It's very, how can I help you take accountability for your life and take the steps needed to move you forward? It's like, okay, what have we learned from past experiences, and how can we use that to help you move forward? So it's not, and that's a big difference. And that's why people who stay in coaching long term, it's really like setting new goals, making what the new level is, and having a continuous, improvement, development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at some point when you get to that, when you're like, okay, what do you think is holding you back? Obviously, that comes very close to them probably having that conversation with another counselor or something. So you
Right.
must have some experience, even though you're obviously not going to be a counselor to them, but you must have some experience on how to, kind of tweak that mindset so that they can access what they need in order to accomplish the goals of what they're trying to accomplish.
Definitely, and I think my work as a coach is very complementary in some ways to the work that counselors and therapists do. I mean, I have clients who are seeing a mental health professional specific for, anxiety, depression, whatever else they're doing, and also working with me as a coach. And their therapists know that they're working with me, and I know they're working with a therapist, right? Because we play different roles.
Right.
I would not, I don't do psychotherapy in that way, yes. However, in conversations with my clients, sometimes, they mention some of those things and how it stands in their way from moving forward. And what we're learning is tools that can help them manage it, to be able to take action, right? To be able to take action, because if you look at ourselves and some of those tools are out there, right? Mindfulness, meditation, journaling, all of those things do help us be more grounded in some way. Movement, right? Movement, all of that adds to it. Yeah. And when you feel grounded, again, action.
Yeah. And, again, kind of going back to my, I guess I'd call it an immature view before I started with the whole coaching, results coaching is, I always felt like, it's that kind of ego, that ignorant ego that says, you don't need that, you're doing fine. And then you think about it, you're like, okay, think about Tiger Woods, think about anybody out there. Tiger Woods in the TV show Billions. Tiger Woods has a coach. In the TV show Billions, Axe has a therapist. Actually, part of his employees. And so, once you realize you're like, this is not a weakness. Asking for help like this is not a weakness. You don't know what you're doing, and it might not be a bad idea to have somebody for the outside perspective to kind of help you right the ship.
Right. I mean, most successful people that I know do have a coach. Yeah. They do have a coach. It's like assembling your team that makes you successful. The same way an organization would have a board of directors with different strengths. It's like, okay, well, to make me the best I could be, I have my coach in my corner where I could go. And here's another thing. Most successful people, or most people on their way to the success, there are things they cannot talk to family and friends about, right? Because they fear being judged, and or these people are going to give you their own perspective on things, and then that also then comes with the liability of, okay, well, now that I've given you the advice, if you don't follow it, it means that you disrespected me. Whereas a lot of my work is judgment free. You come in, you say, I ask you questions to help get clarity, questions to help you dig deeper, questions to help you silence the noise and focus on what matters to you the most, and then challenge you to take action to get to that result, the outcome that you want.
And what are a couple of things that is it discipline? What are some characteristics that you find within your clients that you can kind of say, okay, most of the people that I work with that are successful are X, Y, and Z. Is there a list like that?
Yes. Most of the people that I find who is successful, one, are open to learning. So, and what I mean open to learning is learning about themselves and what they want and going deeper, right? Because if you're coming with that presupposition of what you expect or what you expect things to be, or how the session will go, then you're already standing in your own way. So open to learning, open to the experience. So that's one. Two is they do the work, right? They do the work, because knowing something alone doesn't help you move forward. That's just the beginning. But then using what you know to implement, right, to execute, to take action, makes a lot of difference. And progress is always better than, in fact, there's no perfection. Right? It's always progress. And I say imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. Right? So it's take the next step. Well, I can't see what's on top of the mountain, but I know that each step I take gets me closer to my goal. So and with that, so openness, action, and actually not just action, but consistent daily action towards the outcome they desire. Yeah.
And it's funny. I'm just reflecting on myself while you're saying this, and that idea of I got this. I'm already set in my ways. It's either the hesitancy / fear of pulling back the curtain and really self-analyzing yourself, or it's an ego that's based on not necessarily the reality of the situation. So to be able to drop the ego, to be able to just say, hey, to be that to have that vulnerability, I used to think was a weakness, and it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you come to realize when working with you. And so that is super helpful in my everyday life now, and anything I do. It's that kind of I step back, a little bit of self-aware, a little bit of self-analysis here to kind of figure out, why am I either hesitant about doing this, or why am I wanting to do it this way, and not listen to anybody else's ideas on another way to do it. So,
right. But I mean, even if you're willing to share, this podcast, was one of the goals that we had, to grow the podcast, to record more episodes of the podcast, to get it out there, to increase the numbers, and to sign up for the YouTube partnership program, But again, this is something you do because you enjoy. It started as a fun project, but then over time too, it's like this could be just, this message could get out. Remind me, what is this thing that you say about, key information? You got it. Tell me. Something about getting relevant information out to people who need it the most, something like that.
Yeah, and that's true. Basically, and I think this is what you're asking me. I basically say, if I'm interested in it, if I think it's actually important, there's got to be other people out there that could use this information. So why not have a vehicle where people can access it? Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And you follow through. You started the recording. You have multiple episodes put on YouTube, and here we are talking about it.
And thank you, by the way. Hey, so let's take a quick step back here. So, at the very beginning, you said you'd traveled to 28 countries.
26, yes.
Okay, and you lived in London for a while. Did you live anywhere else? And what's with the wanderlust?
Okay, so multiple questions, and I'll answer it in little pieces. Okay, so from one perspective, the ability to travel and live in multiple cultures with different people and multiple places opens your mind in ways you never would have imagined, right? Because then you're out of your bubble of familiarity. You're out of the bubble of how you see the world and what the world should look like, because you don't know any other. So that for me was very, very important right from when I was young. And so I'd always known that I would travel a lot. In fact, I had thought about at some point becoming a diplomat so I could travel and visit multiple countries. Okay, so that was one. That's one of the drivers for it. Places that I've lived, of course, I said I was born in Nigeria. Then the US is, of course, where I live. Then Norway. I spent some time in Norway, in the Scandinavia. France. I spent some time in France. Hungary, in Europe. Hungary, Belgium is another one. London, we already talked about. And Singapore. Is that 8 already? Yes. So Nigeria, US, Norway, France, Hungary, UK, Belgium, Singapore. Yeah.
Were you traveling, or were you just drop in there and live there for a while?
That's a great question. So I lived there for a while. So it wasn't like a 2-week vacation. Like, it was like lived there, had an address, had an ID, pretty much stayed there. I think the shortest of all them all was probably Norway, which is about a month plus, and the longest, of course, is the US. But then anyway, some were 6 months, some were 10 months, and that was a year and a half. What took me there? Singapore, we went there because my wife, was working for a company based in Singapore. So, and she loves to travel too. So it was an opportunity to travel and go live in a new country for a little bit. Most of what I did in Europe was a combination of work and study. So I worked a little bit with the European Commission, basically in the Education and Audiovisual Executive Agency. So I worked there for a little bit. And I also studied in Europe too. So a little bit, I did what is called the Erasmus programs. And Erasmus basically is originally a Dutch scientist. It's not as popular here in the US, but if you're in Europe and it's like you did Erasmus, you're like, oh my gosh, royalty. Just kidding. But no, Erasmus was a Dutch scientist who believed that complete education is when you've experienced multiple ways of learning in multiple places and across multiple cultures with multiple people. And so one of my master's degree was an Erasmus master's degree, and that's what took me to Norway, France, the UK, and London. And then the rest of it was just leisure travel in between. When you're in Europe, anywhere in Europe, you get on a train, 3 hours, you're in the next country, right? Or sometimes less than. So that I did with while I was in Europe. And then while I went to Singapore, opportunity to go to Thailand, Malaysia, all the other neighboring Southeastern Asian countries. When I was in Nigeria growing up, I visited a lot of West African countries. And from here in the US, visiting, places in the Caribbean and Central America. And the travel never stops. And actually here in the US, I've been to 36, I have to count. Of the 50 states, and the goal is to hit all 50.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. There's a lot of people born in the U.S. that would never get to that point. So that's awesome. What do you have clients all over the country, all over the world? What's the makeup of your clients?
All over the world.
Really?
All over the world. And technology makes that easy. Right. I mean, we just need to balance the time zones.
Yeah.
But yeah, all over the world. And Asia, North America, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, all over the world.
Now, are the challenges the same with the clients? Are the speed bumps or the things that they think are challenges to get to the next level, are they the same throughout the world? Is it a human nature thing, or are there cultural differences that interact with that as well?
Cultural differences play a part. It's fundamentally human nature. And you find patterns. In the way we see, think, act, all connected to the beliefs we hold. And yeah, so it's more fundamentally human nature, or human psychology, I would say, than culture. Culture plays a part, but it's more, human psychology.
So I'm gonna use a couple of examples here that may or may not make me sound like the ugly American that everybody talks about when they're traveling. So generally speaking, the Americans get this reputation of hustle, go get them, nonstop, just frantic, move. And then, you go to Europe and they've got 2-hour lunches, and, they take a nap in the afternoon, and just their whole sort of outlook is different. Does that come into play at all? Or is it, once you kind of you strip that stuff away, it's basically down to whether or not that individual is ready to move forward and wants to move forward?
It just comes down to whether the individual is ready to move forward or not. Right. It really is. Because it doesn't matter if it's fast-paced or consistent, steady growth. There's always a place for everyone based on their style, right? What we want to avoid is activity without purpose. And we see a lot of that.
And that seems to be that's sort of the ding on the sort of the American culture. It says you're just moving for movement's sake. There's that no real, and that's one of the other things that I really got a lot out of was the idea that plan it out first. Take the time to relax, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, plan it out first, and then start executing.
Right. Plan before executing, because then there's more clarity on where you're going and what you're doing. And the other part too is integration, life integration. So meaning all the things that matter to you, how do they work together, right? And planning that ahead and doing that such that at the end of the day, you're not getting one at the expense of the other.
Yeah. And one of the things that we had talked about was the idea of picking a time and just be disciplined to make sure that time is there for, and do that all the time. And sometimes that can be tough, especially, when things start to get busy and maybe you don't have that, the weekly accountability meeting. Yeah.
And so one is making it a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right? If it's something you want and you're determined to get in it, then it becomes a non-negotiable. So that's one. Now the other part of it is the weekly meetings that I have with clients. Sometimes it's the clarity meeting, sometimes it's the accountability, because they know that I'm going to ask them, have you taken the steps you committed to take it? That in itself is, a push to get the work done. Whereas just by themselves, it's like, well, I could do it tomorrow or I can push it away. So clarity, accountability, setting bigger goals, a little bit of motivation, right? And I'll say more encouragement rather than motivation. It's just like, okay, here are the reasons I think you can do this based on our conversation and what we've seen. So what's stopping you? Nothing, right? A little bit of mitigation too. So meaning thinking ahead. Okay, now that I have decided I want to do this, thinking ahead, what can stand in the way? And then immediately planning on how to mitigate that so that you're not caught unawares at the last minute or not knowing what to do. Sometimes things will come up that you didn't plan for. However, the more that you have planned ahead, the less of flying pieces you have to deal with last minute.
Yeah. So this is really good stuff that I got a lot out of. So if any of you out there are interested and you like what we're talking about here and you want to get a hold of Damilare, it's Damilare Adeyeri, and it's Damilare Adeyeri at gmail.com, and I'll spell that out real quick. It is DAMILARE ADYERI @gmail.com. And his phone number, probably the best way to get a hold of him, I would imagine, is 9133-JOYFUL or 913-356-9385. So if you like what we're talking about here, you think it might be beneficial for you, Damilare is great, and feel free to reach out to him. So let's kind of talk about what in terms of you as the results coach, are you where do you see this going? What kind of follow-on training are you doing personally to kind of improve and increase your ability to help out people hit their results?
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, learning never stops, right? Learning never stops. And what that means is I have my own coach too. So I have my own coach that, right? Because, hey, I mean, how can I expect people to get coaches when I'm not working with a coach myself? So definitely have a coach myself. I also have a coach mentor. And the difference is my own coach helps me work on my own, stuff, whatever it is, right? My own coach mentor helps me become a better coach each time. And that's a little different. So I have both. Also, continuous development, books, tapes, podcasts, events, and I think, all of that matters.
Yeah.
All of that matters. Otherwise, it's easy to get complacent. And then, what will be the message that I'm telling my clients?
And now is the science of results coaching, is that changing? So, or is it pretty much a consistent type of thing?
That's a great question. So a lot of the science actually connects with neuroscience, right? So the more we are learning about the nervous system, neural pathways, neurons, the more we understand about coaching, because the habits that we form are a network of neurons that have created neural pathways for us. And that comes from doing things over and over again. So basically, the brain is trying to do less work. Right? So if you've brushed your teeth the same way every day, you're probably not thinking anymore when you're brushing your teeth, because the brain has moved that into the neural pathway such that you can do it easily. I bet in the dark, if you were eating, your hand would not miss your mouth, right? Again, because you've done that multiple times. And so everything we do, our habits, our patterns, what we're thinking, what we do, is all connected to the neurons that have been wired together for those habits. So a lot of what we're doing in coaching also is helping you connect with your emotions to help you change those neural pathways, right? And form new habits. So emotions and actions, over and over again until the new habit sticks. So if there's new research in neuroscience and we're learning more, it would impact coaching, right? If there's new research in psychology and behavioral science, it would impact coaching. And the benefit of being a coach is also then staying on top of it.
And are you able to, as those type of processes change, are you able to implement those with your existing clients, or is there some level of and I probably know the answer to this, but is there some level of maybe reticence of trying something new, or are they open to?
One of the things that we've seen with successful clients is openness. Right?
Which you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
We talked about this. Yeah. So, it's, so here's another thing that is relevant, is that many people hold beliefs that they've never had to question. The challenge is most of those beliefs were formed subconsciously. something they saw in their background, their environment, their family, their culture, where they grew up, and it just seemed like, what we know and how we do things. However, without questioning those beliefs, you don't know how it's serving you or how it's not serving you. I mean, you could question them and decide consciously, yes, now I am intentionally choosing this belief because I see how it serves me and the benefit. Or decide, well, there's a little bit we can tweak here.
Yeah.
Right? And so it really is the value of the openness, Are these thoughts, beliefs that I hold and standards, are they serving me and getting me to where I want to go in life?
Yeah. And that's not necessarily a natural instinct for people to have that type of introspection.
No.
Yeah. No. And so I would assume those are the type of people that get to the point where they're talking to you because it's gotten so painful that they're in a loop that they can't get out of, and they have no idea how they got into that in the first place. Is that trainable to have that introspection, or is it? It is
trainable. It is absolutely trainable to have that introspection. It just comes from, doing it often to open up your mind to multiple perspectives. Yeah. And and I can't say it exactly, but I've heard a quote before that says, a mind expanded by an idea never regains its original dimension. And that's really what it is. A mind expanded by an idea never regains the original dimension. So meaning that the more you're open to multiple perspectives and multiple views, the more data you have to pull from in your thinking and behavioral process.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, I'm realizing that something will happen, whether it's you see a certain color or a certain smell, and there's a immediate connection to maybe somewhere back in your childhood. And a couple of years ago, it never would have even come to my attention. I was just doing that subconsciously. Now, having learned things from people like you and talking to other people, is recognize it, actually accept that it happened, and then go, how did that happen? Why did it happen? What was what's the connection? And it's wild. Because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's...
No. I mean, so it's interesting, and we could go deeper because there's a lot of concepts and things we could talk about, which are tools that are used to help clients get results. But everything you said right now about the color, the smell, and things like that is connected to multi-sensoriality. So basically multiple senses, and as humans, we sense and move through the world with multiple senses. And a lot of us only rely on the thinking faculty, whereas what we feel, what we smell, what we taste, all of that adds to the collection of knowledge and emotion that affects our behavior, that affects our memory. And so one of the tools we use in coaching, is broadly speaking, visualization. And through that process, we want clients to, as much as possible, feel, see, hear, know,
yeah,
the goal they want, right? So it's not just enough to write a goal and say, I want to achieve this outcome, but then can you feel, can you imagine what it feels like to have the goal? Can you see it in your mind's eye? Can you taste what it will feel like? Can you smell it? All of that is more of a driving force to actually doing the work to get the goal than just mentally thinking, this is what I want. And the same way too, in terms of however they're feeling, happy, joyful, determined, confident, all of that. Go ahead.
No, you don't realize that until you actually have somebody with an objective kind of view of what you're going through, be able to kind of explain those things to you. You don't realize it. And so, it's like I had mentioned earlier, before I started doing this, the idea was, I don't think I need one. And that's just because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it just opening that up is a huge, and just recognizing that is how you were looking at things, that step in and of itself is a huge breakthrough.
Yeah, totally.
And it's funny. I probably had the same outlook as you did growing up. I always felt like I wanted to leave where I grew up and see the world and all those sorts of things. And I have friends that still to this day, live in the town that I grew up in, and just, that's their life. And they never really went beyond that. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
It just, I mean, who am I to say what's a good thing and a bad thing? They seem to have a great life, and things worked out for them. It's just that was just never my personality and my personal sort of dream out there.
Right. I mean, it's not a bad thing. At the same time, it's also not the most of all they could become.
Yeah.
Right. As humans, our potential are infinite. And the growth that happens all is combined with the experiences and how much more we allow ourselves, explore.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, man, it's been it's fascinating stuff. And again, this is I'm talking with results coach Damilare Adeyeri, and it's 9133 Joyful is the phone number if you want to get a hold of them. So I tell you what, man, this was great. I really, really appreciate the time.
Not a problem. Thanks for asking me to be here, Brian.
No problem. And it's good to talk to you again. And best of luck to you. And thank you for everything that you did for me. And I know anybody out there who feels like they need a push or want to take that next step, but may not necessarily know how. If not a guy like Damilare, maybe somebody else like that, somebody that has the expertise and the objective view of what you're trying to do to help you get there. So I guess probably leave it at, Tiger Woods has a coach. Probably wouldn't be a bad thing for everyone else to have a coach.
I mean, names, right? Names. So absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Damilare, this was great. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Brian. All right.
All right.
And bye to everyone watching.
All right. Hey, listen, guys, if you're in the police departments, fire departments, the military, first responders, if that's you out there, thank you very much for your service. Stay safe. This is the Rain Man. Damilare, thank you again. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching Rain Man's Take, observations on the world we live in. If you like the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. You can also follow Rain Man's Take on Instagram at Rain Man's Take. Also, check out our website at www.rainmanstakepodcast.com and send your comments to rainmanstake@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for future podcasts, which will be coming out every Thursday at 5 p.m. West Coast time.